I think it's time to discuss your philosophy of drug use as it relates to artistic endeavor.
Hello, lovelies. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Triangle Agency. Clock in, save the world, apparently. This is a weird sort of game in a lot of ways, which I actually like and appreciate. It's kind of like Paranoia and the Laundry Files had a deformed little crossbred baby, while also channeling video games like Control and the other Remedy games in the same universe, along with elements of popular internet meme factories, more SCP Foundation than Creepypasta, perhaps. The book is hardbound, full colour, if slightly washed out, matte on the inside. That washed outness, I think, is deliberate. There's 300 pages or so, thereabouts. It does have a nice red ribbon and shiny red foiling on the cover, so, you know, quality continues to rise for a lot of games. The elevator pitch for this is that you're agents for a sprawling corporate structure. You have strange but powerful abilities. You'll be investigating anomalies, which are peculiar objects, beings, or phenomena, which you then have to contain using the special abilities that you have from being bonded with an anomaly or through your work for the agency. So your job is to contain or eliminate those anomalies and thereby to stabilize reality. And the better you are at your job, the more you rise through the corporate ladder and the more access to special capabilities and so on that you get. It's an HR seminar with otherworldly oddness and surreality, and looks more fun than that actually sounds. The book itself is laid out much like a corporate training manual, but with concessions to game mechanics and keeping things interesting along the way. It is a refreshingly clean layout, except when it isn't. And while the use of so much white space is graphically effective and readable, it might make some people feel like they're being a bit ripped off. The focus on graphic design and a sort of post-art punk, art new wave, maybe, does affect the usability of the game here and there and the accessibility of the rules, but generally speaking there are also summaries dotted throughout the book that you can reference rather than going through the full text itself. The writing is primarily somewhat humorous, but the game doesn't lean into the humour quite as much as the writing and presentation might have you think. It's not quite Paranoia levels of zaniness, but it's not entirely a joyless, dystopic, bureaucratic grind either. In some ways, Gilliam's film Brazil might be a good touchstone for the sort of tonal landing point, but this is the horror of working for a large company with all its procedures and form filling and so on, rather than government bureaucracy with all its procedures and form filling and so on. So it's a bit more of the here and now, I guess you could say. Now, humour and horror are the two most difficult vibes there are to create at the gaming table, and this game is going for both to an extent. It goes for the first using tried and true methods of making humour work in a TTRPG, which contrasts it interestingly with the Monty Python RPG that I reviewed recently. So Triangle Agency uses structural play, anticipation, common steps, common failure, and a degree of absurdity, while the horror side doesn't get the same level of support or advice, and you're kind of left to your own devices when it comes to that, which is a little unfortunate. So these anomalies that you're tracking, they are concentrations of ideas given form and power by the collective human unconscious. A fear of flying, perhaps a common enough feeling, for example, might manifest at an airport in the form of a doll or something, and when taken onto a flight, that doll might scream and wail ceaselessly through the entire flight while masquerading as a baby and driving everyone on the flight to violence or insanity. So you would then have to find some sort of way of getting onto the plane and dealing with that issue without creating too many loose ends in the form of witnesses or noticeable oddities, and without tipping your hand to normal people or creating too much of a scene. So that's an idea manifesting as an object or being or other thing, and then you having to deal with it. System-wise, the game is a bit of an odd duck. Where most games, and most games of a similar ilk, like, say, I don't know, Unknown Armies, which would be another similar sort of tonal touchstone, where most of those start from a baseline of capability via stats and skills, and then layer special abilities over the top of it. Here, you're assumed to be baseline incompetent, and if there's any question over whether you will succeed or fail at something, you will fail. And you only succeed by appealing to the supernatural and reality-altering effects of the agency or channeling your special abilities, and that is your primary resolution mechanic. So if you want to do something that's in question, you make an appeal to kind of edit reality or to use your special capabilities, and then you always roll 6 d4s and count the number of them that come up with a 3. I guess because why not? 3 is the magic number and relates to triangles. So that will give you a result between 0 and 6 successes. You have, if my calculations are correct, slightly over an 80% chance of getting at least 1 success. 3 natural successes on the dice is effectively a critical. Any die that fails generally causes chaos, which is a sort of in-game currency that the games master can use to cash in and make things more difficult for you. Stats and skills, such as they are more to do with what the agency expects of you more than who or what you actually are, and this is expressed in qualities which have pools of points that let you tip failed dice into successes until you run out, and then you become burnt out in that particular capability, which means that you cancel out 1 success when you roll when using that particular quality, and will almost always generate at least some chaos. So these qualities include attentiveness, duplicity, dynamism, empathy, initiative, persistence, presence, professionalism, and subtlety. And they don't really say much of anything about your character's innate capabilities. This is just how you interact with the agency, which is a bit weird. So a crit, if you roll 3 natural 3s, is called a transcendence, and this lets you add more 3s, replenish some of your lost quality assurance points, and also gets you commendations for your character, which are important. Successful missions and various things during play can give you commendations or demerits, and that helps determine your rank and level of achievement within the company. So, to do something, you're not exactly rolling on those aforementioned qualities. Rather, as I said, you're assumed to fail unless you ask the agency for help. And the agency's help manifests as a series of fortuitous causal circumstances that thereby allow you to succeed with whatever you're doing. Or you're using your anomalous abilities, which you just kind of roll straight for the most part. So, for example, say you're trying to climb a lamppost to rescue a trapped seagull that's got caught up in the lamppost and that swallowed an anomaly earlier. This is difficult enough that the Games Master says that you won't be able to climb it without some kind of intervention. You counter that by saying that local government cutbacks mean that the lamppost hasn't been cleaned in a long time, which allows you to get a better grip on it. So the chain of events here is that local governments have been cut, plausible, leading to the laying off or cutting back of cleaning staff, also plausible, who as a result haven't cleaned this particular lamppost, again plausible given the chain of events, and the practical upshot of which is that the dirt gives you enough of a grip to be able to scale it when you normally wouldn't. You then roll 64, count how many successes, spend QA from probably dynamism if needed, and generate chaos for each failed die, and then, provided you got at least one success, you get up and you sort it out. If you fail, then the chain of events leads to unintended consequences that get in your way somehow, like, say, perhaps because the lamppost hasn't been maintained, electricity is discharging through the pole, not enough maybe to kill you, but enough to cause you issues when you try to climb it, or something else. Maybe the lamppost cleaners are on strike and have a picket posted around this particular lamppost. Yeah, whatever it might be. Characters do die easily. Basically, if anything at all would harm you or land a blow and you're out of QA points to suck it up, you die. But it's fairly easy to survive, at least as long as you have QA points, so it's more about whittling those down. And even if you do die, you can come back by spending commendations or going into debt with commendations, thanks to the agency and its access to supernatural capabilities. So far so good, but there is some bullshit in this game. Yet at the same time, that bullshit feels weirdly appropriate in the context of corporate diversity washing, DEI departments, human resources, public relations, etc. So yes, we do have content warnings and safety tools in here, unfortunately. And the game even enshrines the ability of agents to magic up disability access, to remove racism or sexism or other bigotry from NPCs, and to replace or repair accessibility devices for free and without generating chaos. So you can just ask the agency to replace or come in and change things for free without chaos if you need it. So everywhere is wheelchair accessible if you ask for it to be wheelchair accessible. If someone takes away your crutches, you can magic up new ones. If you run into Harvey Weinstein, you can suddenly magically make him not a misogynistic, fondling sack of shit. Just like that, which removes options from the Games Master and interactions with, villains. Difficult. Of course, you can always retcon that at your table. So it weirdly fits with the kind of corporate schmaltz that we get here, but it's still annoying to see, even though I think we all know it's just empty genuflection in most games these days. Agents themselves are created by choosing the type of anomaly that you're bonded to, such as a conceptual weapon or gun that's destructive. Your reality, such as your role as a caretaker to a child or an elderly relative or whatever else, that describes your mundane life. You describe your relationships, so important people that you have some sort of relationship with. Your competency, such as, say, a barista working for the company. And yeah, I know, but again, it's weirdly fitting here. And you fill out a handful of forms and answer questions. Downtime is also incorporated into the game and has a whole structure that's kind of annoying and fiddly, to be honest. As your agent climbs the corporate ladder in various ways, they unlock additional special abilities and liabilities which are hidden in the GM section and are considered play-walled, and it's basically a somewhat janky experience system. Of course, there's more to the world than what's presented to the agency's agents. but there be spoilers and GM-only information, so I won't get into that, but suffice to say, strange things are afoot at the Circle K. At the end of all that, what we have here is an amusing read and an oddball game that tries to do some things differently while standing on the shoulders of giants like Paranoia and Over the Edge. By and large, it does it competently, but some of the jokes and the rigmarole will quickly wear thin, I think, particularly the form filling and the fiddliness of relationships and downtimes, and the somewhat procedural tracking of various numbers and aspects as you play the game, should you play a campaign. It's kind of like repeating the same joke over and over and over again until it's no longer funny. Style-wise, I actually give this game a 5 because it's trying to do things differently and it's very engaging. It's written in an entertaining way, it's got very nice graphic design, effective use of art, properly weird presentation, and it mostly successfully surfs the line that other presentation-focused games like Morkborg go too far on. Content-wise, I want to applaud the doing of something different, but because it's so different, it's a bit of a tricky headspace to get into. And the system is where it does cross that line in terms of presentation, and does get a bit clunky with the form filling and the focus more towards art than functionality. Nevertheless, it is a complete game without anything obviously missing, and there's plenty of room for later expansion if it's successful. So, style-wise, I give it a 5. Substance-wise, I give it a 3. It's 8 out of 10. 4 out of 5. So, yeah, an actual recommended game. At least if you're into weirdness, surreality, satire, and can make comedy games or slight horror games work at your table. Zang.
Machinations of the Space Princess is an old-school RPG with a sci-fi setting. The rules are familiar and at once innovative. Opened up so you can play literally any alien species you can envision. Purchase it at RPG Now or Lulu.com.
Well, I look at it myself as the beginning, really, of an exploration. That's the reason we're exploring. You don't know what you'll run into on an exploration. What the sky looks like, what the stars look like. Do they still twinkle, or are they a steady light when you get outside the atmosphere?